Super Bock.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. Still experimenting with the lighting. Hopefully the picture quality is a little bit better. As I say on a few of these videos, I've got a big archive of stuff, of beers that I've reviewed that I just haven't got around to posting up. They'll be posted up at some point, so the quality in the picture that you see may vary. And there's little Bob. How you doing, mate? They may have varied, but this is the kind of thing I'm going to be going for, this kind of quality. So if you like that, then that's what's coming up. I've been experimenting with the lights. It's like the fucking Blackpool illuminations in here. You wouldn't think there's a fucking energy crisis. I've got a light there, I've got a light there, I've got a light down there, I've got a light up there. Fuck me, it's like a lighthouse. Oh, relax. Don't even go into a rant before you've even looked at the beer. Right, Super Bock. A few viewers on the channel have asked me to review this, and I keep seeing it in Morrison's, and I just haven't bothered picking it up. Why? I don't know. Probably because it's one of these common beers. It's a macro brewed beer. It's the best selling beer in Portugal. So I imagine if there's a few of you that are watching this have been to Portugal, you've had some of this before. I've never had this beer before in my life, and I'm just verifying that. No, I haven't. I can honestly say I've never had that before. I've never bought a bottle of that stuff before. Never been to Portugal before. A fella I was in a band with, he did a gig in Portugal, and they had a really bad landing when they came into, I think it was it the Algarve they were playing around there, somewhere around there. And the plane, it was really windy, and the plane was all over the fucking place, and it put him off flying. And to this day, he still does not fly, which is a major setback if you're in a band and you're doing gigs in Europe. But that's how scared he was, and I'm not fucking knocking him for that. I mean, if something like that happened to me, I'd sort of question whether it was worth flying or not. But I'm going to Bavaria on Friday, 2 days' time. So yeah, let's see how that flight goes. If they even let me in. Oh, God. Anyway, let's get back to the beer. Right, this is, as I say, this is Portugal's best-selling beer. Now, recently I reviewed the Sagres beer, and that was one of these beers that was typical of a beer in a hot country. I don't think they concentrate much on the flavour. I think when you're living in one of these hot countries, you just want refreshment, and the flavour sort of goes out the window. And I've sort of come to that realisation as well. So I'm not building my hopes up for this, even though I have seen some quite good reviews of this, and some people have said that it's quite a decent beer. Now, whether that is true or not, I do not know, but we shall see. It's available in most supermarkets. I think I've seen it well, it's definitely in Morrison's, because that's where I got it this morning when I was mooching about. I went to the dentist today. Fuck me. I've got to get a wisdom tooth taken out, and I've got to get a crown put on another tooth. Thankfully, I have an NHS dentist, which means I pay a set amount. So for that little lot, taking the wisdom tooth out, not putting anything in its place, and getting a crown put in, and that's a metal crown, because I am metal. Well, I had a choice. I could have had a white crown or a metal crown. I just thought, fuck it, I'll go for the metal crown. But the cost of that is £282, which is not fucking cheap by anyone's standards. But that's NHS, that's the band C, that's the top on the NHS. If you're from another country, I'll explain, the NHS is a free service at the point of entry. But for dentistry, they do charge. But it's at a reduced rate, and that is at a reduced rate. They're not taking on any more NHS patients and dentists across Kent. I heard that this morning, and it means that if you've got problems with your teeth and you're not registered with a dentist, and you do register, you have to pay the full whack. And believe me, what I was getting done would be at least double that. I had root canal treatment on a tooth about, that must be nearly 10 years ago now, and that cost me over 500 quid. And believe me, root canal treatment is not fucking pleasant. Believe me, the pain I was in after that, and I still didn't get it. Now and again it still flares up. There's a little infection there and it flares up every now and again. Anyway, enough about my fucking railings. Let's get back to the beer for the fucking fourth time. As I say, this is available in most supermarkets, and it's, as I say, it's one of the beers that I've just never bothered picking up. However, a few viewers on the channel and a couple of subscribers have said, can you review this after I reviewed the Sagres stuff? And they said it's quite good, they quite like it, which is fair enough. So I thought, yeah, why not? I'll give it a go. It did intrigue me as to how they're from Portugal and they've got inroads into the UK supermarkets, and I think I've even seen it around Skunk Central. Basically, they're owned by Carlsberg, or Carlsberg have a big stake in the Super Bock group, and there's two different conglomerates that make up this Super Bock group, and Carlsberg have got over 50% shares and 44% shares in the two groups that make up this Super Bock group. So that's the reason why. So I suppose if you're taken over by one of these big macro brewers, that comes with the territory. You get really good distribution inroads. The trouble is, a lot of the stuff is brewed in the UK. Now, I don't know whether this is or not. I really should have looked that up, shouldn't I? It doesn't say that it is brewed in the UK, because if it's brewed in the UK, there's fucking no point, because if you brew it in the UK, it's just going to taste like dog shit. I'd rather get some from the original source. I'm just going to check that now, because the writing on the back of this, I'm going to have to take a photo of this, because the writing is so fucking obscure that I'm not going to be able to read that with a naked eye. Very professional this, eh? It's fucking having to take a photo of this, and it's all in. It looks like it's all in Portuguese. The ingredients: water, barley malt, unmalted cereals, maize and barley. Oh Christ, God help us! But it don't say. Yeah, it mentions beer of Portugal. Doesn't say brewed in the UK. Am I? You know when they say always read the small print. Let's check this out. No, I can't see anything that says this is brewed in the UK. So that is a good sign. I do apologise for having to do that, but the old mince pies ain't what they used to be. Even with all this fucking light, they still ain't what they used to be. Jesus Christ, I really am Mr. Magoo, aren't I? But these are quite profitable. In 2014, they made, I think it was 33 million euros profit, which might not sound a lot, but for a country that, such as Portugal, which really hasn't, in my opinion, got a great brewing or beer consuming culture, that is not a bad fucking shout. But I imagine a lot of it has to do with the tourist trade. But they're quite successful. They sponsored two teams, or they have sponsored two football teams in the past, FC Porto and Sporting Lisbon. And I was doing some research. They also sponsor a lot of cultural events as well, Super Bock do. And I was doing some research, and this again, Mr. Magoo fucking strikes again. I was looking up some of the cultural events they sponsor, and it said the Porto Film Festival 1989. I read that as Porno Film Festival 1989, and I did a double take, and I read it twice as porno, and I did it the third time just to make fucking sure, and then I realised it was Porto. So yeah, don't ever get me to fucking read anything out that really matters. Fucking hell, what is going on? But they're quite diverse in what they brew. They don't just brew this stuff, which is originally, it came out as a Pilsner. I don't know what they call it now. I imagine it's just a lager, but originally that was a Pilsner, and they called it a winter beer. So fuck knows how cold the winters get over in Portugal. Quite cold, I'd imagine, because they're on the Atlantic coast. But they also do some other stuff as well. They're big into the non-alcoholic stuff. They do a non-alcoholic stout. They do a non-alcoholic black beer or a dark lager. They do, obviously, a non-alcoholic Pilsner. They do a gluten-free Super Bock as well. They do a stout, And they do a beer, Super Bock Green, which is beer with lemon juice in it. Why the fuck would you want that? I don't know whether that's some kind of radler or something like that, but yeah, not really for me, to be honest. But they also do, interestingly, they also do one called, is it Arabadia or something? Or Abadia, I think it's called. And it's based on a middle-aged beer. When I say middle-aged, I don't mean like some 50-year-old fucking geezers brewed it. I mean a beer from the Middle Ages. So I don't know how true to the original recipe. I'm imagining it's not really, because I'd imagine that stuff's pretty unpalatable if you did take it from the original recipe. But they do one anyway, and it contains sugar as well. Last thing I'm going to mention on this, they do on their Super Bock website, they do mention a lot about beer consumption and stuff like that. But they also do make a good point about saying how the light affects beers. And I'm glad to say all their beers are in brown bottles. They haven't, I don't think, despite pressure from Carlsberg, the Super Bock beers, they haven't got any green bottles, which is music to my ears. So let's shut up. Let's get this open. Right, before we do, I'll give you a quick spiel on what this is. What size bottle is this? It looks like a 660ml. Yeah, it is 660ml. Always wary of beers in 660ml bottles. It is 5.2%, I think. And it's, yeah, there's a few awards that it's won. Now, I've been fucking about with the settings on this camera. Do I have to? Oh, there you go. See, that ain't too bad now. It just takes a while to get into focus. So when I take that away, yeah, I'm getting the hang of this fucking technology, you know. Yeah, I think this is 5.2%, and as I say, distributed by Carlsberg, so that's why it's available. I can't remember whether I mentioned, but this brewery has been going since 1927, so it's a relatively young brewery. Let's get it open finally and see what this is really like. Rightio. Super Bock. Have you seen it before? Probably not. Now, if you live in the States, for fuck's sake, autofocus. There you go. Oh, that's the key now. There's a little monitor on the side. I've got to touch that so as you can see what the effing Jesus is going on. All right, let's get into ye olde glass. I've got a spag bowl on the go down there. It's been going for about 3 hours now. It's got another 2 hours to go. I do like making my spag bowl like the Italians. They take fucking ages to cook them, but I'll tell you what, it is well worth it. Right, aroma. Let's see what we got. I should really let lager settle for a bit, because when you first open up a lager, not all lagers, but most lagers, you do get like a sulphur build up in the bottle. When you pour it out, that's still escaping. So, you know, if you dive straight in to get the aroma, the first thing you're going to get is a load of sulphur, which is, believe me, it is not pleasant. Right, now we're getting somewhere. Aromas are weak, but there is a vague maltiness and a sweetness to it. There's the colour. Carbonation is fucking huge. And that's actually darker on the camera now. Before, when I had the automatic setting on, it would make beer look lighter, but that's making it look slightly darker. Oh well, I'll have to work. That's something else I've got to work out. Well, put it this way, for a beer that's overseen by Carlsberg, I can't get any nasties on that, which is always a bonus, because that's what you're looking for when you try these kind of beers. And that's it. There's a vague grainy barley type sweetness on there, but very vague, but no nasties, so I'm not massively complaining about that. Anyway, let's get this down my fat Gregory Peck. Bottoms up. Not much of a finish on it, but not unpleasant. Not a chuck down the sink job, not one that immediately sends me into Hitler-esque rants. I will say the mouthfeel is a bit aggressive, a bit abrasive, and if you look at and this isn't a nucleated glass either, there is a ton of CO2 in that. Did you know there's a CO2 shortage at the moment? Good job I drink cask beer. Hey, he says as he's chucking a fucking lager, twat. Again, no, it's still no aroma. Let's dive in again. Oh, a bit of a metallic taste on that mouthful. Quite big as well. Like licking the inside of a tin can. Not that I do that, but that's what it fucking tastes like. Do you remember when you was a kid? I don't know if well, again, I'm going to show my age here, but when I was a kid, you had ring pulls on cans that you pull and they'd actually come off, so you could have them in your hand, and they used to be bent round, and you could manipulate them, and you could use them as like little missiles. You could flick the ring pull, and it'd hit someone in the head, and a fight would ensue. But if you ever licked that, I'm not saying I'm a window licker or anything like that, but if you lick that, it's like licking the inside of a tin can. That's what that tasted like, that mouthful. And that wasn't nice. But I have to say, that is pretty inoffensive. That reminds me of, now you're probably going to hate me for this, but there's a pub down the road that I go to now and again. They have live music in there, and that's the only reason I go in there. And I've actually done a couple of gigs in there when I was stepping with the local heavy metal band. But the beers that they have on keg are Amstel. I think they do a Foster's, and there's another lager as well. I can't remember what it is. Oh, I think it's Kronenberg. They've got. I think it's a free house. It's not tied to a brewery. But they've also got Timothy Taylor on cask, and they usually have a guest ale on cask. 9 times out of 10, the Timothy Taylor isn't available, and they haven't got a guest ale. So it really is a quandary what to drink. So I've drunk Amstel, and yeah, not great, tasteless, gassy crap basically. This tastes a little bit like that. That's what it's reminding me of. Well, I'm saying tasteless crap. It's not crap, it's just boring and bland, and people are happy to drink that. And you know, some people have actually said to me, "Oh, I don't like Amstel. It tastes too hoppy." I just look at it, what? And of course, they're drinking Foster's, and you know, I'm not knocking people's taste, and I hate coming across as if I'm looking down on someone because of their beer choices. I said this on another video as well. This is just all opinion. There's no true facts in these opinions that I have about certain beers. It's my personal opinion, and it's what every single reviewer should bear in mind. It is their opinion. Now, if you like listening to my opinions, which I assume you do, because I think I've got over 1,000 subscribers now, fuck knows how, the amount of fucking shit I talk, but that's all it is. It's just opinions, all right? So I see some people, and you can probably accuse me of this as well when I go into some of my rants, but and I will stick by my opinion on green bottles. No one's going to fucking change me on that one. And if you like the taste of beer that comes out of a green bottle, that's fine. Crack on. I don't have a problem with that. But just don't tell me that beer is better than another beer because it's got an off flavour. Because, well, again, it's an opinion. I don't like it. I really should get back to reviewing this fucking thing, shouldn't I? There is a slightly, I don't know, like yeah, that's what it is. It's like burnt grains, like it's, I don't know, been left to sit in the boil a little bit too long, and there's some acid that's come out, possibly with the hops, that are giving it a bitterness. But yeah, it's not the most offensive beer in the world, I will say that, but that is not great. But again, it comes back to my point about hot countries. And that's a sweeping statement. I shouldn't really say that, because I would imagine there are some half-decent Spanish, Portuguese, where else is really renowned for being hot, in Italy as well. I'm sure there are some decent small-scale brewers in them countries. However, countries that have a hot climate like that, beer really isn't their forte. Because, and I'll say this about the climate in the UK, the climate in the UK is the perfect climate, because we've got well, let me explain this to you. Barley, or should I say malt, it's generally accepted as fact, but I'm open to dissuasion on this. But from what research I've done, most people would agree that the best malt comes from a maritime climate. And the UK, the whole of the UK, is a maritime climate. Because we are an island, we are never less than, at any point in the UK, we are never less than 70 miles from a coastline. Sorry, we are never more than 70 miles from a coastline. So we do have a maritime climate, which usually means the air is relatively damp. What they call it, precipitation, is quite big. Obviously in summer, I mean, this summer's been like a fucking freak show. But that is the best, or supposedly the best conditions for growing malt. And one of the reasons why, in my personal opinion, I think the best malt does come from Norfolk and Suffolk, because they are coastal counties, and obviously very, very near the coast of the North Sea, and they have quite a strong agricultural culture in them two counties as well. I know everyone takes the piss out of them, calling them carrot crunchers and all that. I used to do it as well. I don't do it anymore, because I realise how important farmers are, not just for beer but just for food as well. So let's fucking rein it in a little bit, taking the piss out of people because of where they come from. Do you know what I mean? It's not their fault, and we should fucking celebrate in this country the culture that we've got, because fucking God knows that it's been eroded now. Anyway, more on that later. I don't want to get into the politics of anything. Where was I? Yes, and I mentioned about the malt being grown in a maritime climate. Hops, we have got a unique thing here, in that the hops that are grown in this country are grown in a maritime climate. No other country on this fucking ball of clay does that. Yes, there are possibly coastal towns in America or maritime climate places where hops are grown. I don't know. I really don't have the research for that. In Germany, in Bavaria, in Hallertau, the biggest hop growing region in Europe, that is not a maritime climate. Yes, they do produce some great hops there, and it's probably why German beer tastes so good. But nobody has a culture of growing hops in a maritime environment. And I was looking at something the other day, and that is a lot of farmers are turning away from farming hops because it's just not profitable anymore, which is a real shame. We have got something here that is unique. No other country can get. Even if you try and manufacture it, you can't. It's like a quirk of fate, or a freak of nature, if you like, and we should be exploiting that. And yeah, again, typical British, we're just ashamed of everything that we do. You know, the beer, you know, if you mention beer to someone in the UK, they immediately go down, oh, fucking lager louds, everyone being fucking drunk and all that. And I suppose you can't blame them, because, you know, we have got a little bit of form for that. But the culture of beer is, I wouldn't say it's frowned upon, but it's just, I don't know, it's just not celebrated, in my opinion. Hopefully that will change, but me ranting and raving about it probably won't do anything. It will just give me fucking blood pressure. Anyway, I'm going to have a final dive into this, which is supposed to be a review of Super Bock, but I've gone way off topic here. And that probably does tell you something about the beer, in that it's not making me enthuse about it. It's just a run-of-the-mill lager, I'm afraid. I know there's a lot of viewers on there that said it was okay and all that, which fair enough, it's your taste, as I say, but for me, this ain't doing much at all. It's not unpleasant, put it that way. It's not making me go into a Hitler-esque rant as I would do if it was something from Miller Coors. Yes, I know it's overseen by Carlsberg, but has Carlsberg got something right? I'm sure Warsteiner is something to do with Carlsberg as well, because that's widely available over here too. And to be fair, that ain't a bad beer. So, you know, occasionally, and there's a subscriber on here, Fritz, I think his name was, he made a very pertinent comment at one point, and I featured it on Pints of View. He did say occasionally macro brewers get it right. They do. And I will hold my hands up. Yes, they get a lot of things wrong, but occasionally they get it right. They're like a fucking stop clock, right twice a day. I couldn't resist having a little dig. And to be honest, I will probably drink that. I will probably not buy any more of it. If it gets offered to me and there's nothing else, I won't be, of the opinion I'm not drinking that shit. Whereas if they'd offer me a Kronenberg, I'd just say, look, give us a fucking cup of tea. I'd rather drink tea than Kronenberg. I'd rather drink Percy's piss than fucking Kronenberg. It probably tastes the same. And this wasn't meant to be a rant, but yeah, the mere mention of that fucking beer. Oh, it's French and it's in a green bottle. What do you expect? Calm the fuck down. Breathe. So what is the verdict on Super Bock? Well, yeah, as I say, a lot of viewers said it was a good beer. They enjoy it. For me, it's inoffensive, not much character to it, no real nasties, but just bland and boring. Now, I've recently reviewed Carlsberg, I've recently reviewed the Heineken stuff. It's not on a par with that. They weren't great at all. This is just about acceptable if there was nothing else and you really wanted a beer. Certainly if I was in Portugal and it was blisteringly hot and that was ice cold, that would go down a treat. I always say this about beer from hot countries though, they never taste the same when you're in your own country. A, because 9 times out of 10 it's probably brewed under licence. B, over there it's always cold. And I don't mean cold, I mean ice cold. So you're not really going to get any flavours and it's very refreshing. And 3, when you're drinking a lukewarm San Miguel in a pub in the middle of winter, that's pretty fucking grim. So that's my take on beer from hot countries. But for this one, yeah, it's inoffensive. It doesn't really do anything for me. Flavours are pretty insipid. There was a couple of little nasty moments in there where I got a little metallic flavour to it, but it's got like that grainy, I wouldn't say burnt grain, but slightly roasted grain that gives off a slight bitterness. Warsteiner's got that as well. Generally, to be honest, it's not that unpleasant when you do get that flavour in a beer, but that's about all that's giving it any flavour at all. There's nothing else. Mouthfeel is quite abrasive, not really, and the body on it as well isn't that big, but it's a run-of-the-mill lager from a hot country. For that reason, I mean, to be honest, and I will say this hand on heart, there are more positives in that beer than there are negatives in Super Bock. It's just a disclaimer here, this is not a fucking Bock beer by any chance. I don't know why they called it a Super Bock. Originally this came out as a Pilsner. It is nothing of the sort. So what do you do with a beer like that? Well, you give it 5 out of 10. You don't really recommend it. If you're in a supermarket and they've got this, and they've got something like Warsteiner, even Kronbacher, something like that, or just go for that, or go for a decent English ale. Yeah, let's try and fucking broaden your horizons. Change your fucking mindset. You never know, you might discover something you really like. Just don't drink any Green King, Marston's, or beer of that ilk, or John Smith's. You get me drift? Yeah, so I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10, as it's not really doing anything offensive, but it really isn't going anywhere with me when it comes to flavour. So yeah, I think 5 out of 10 is a fair mark for that. And it's a toss-up between, if it's a toss-up between this and something else, then yeah, go for something else. Something a bit with a bit more quality on it. So there you go. And remember, beer is working class champagne.